I remember the day I heard those words. It stopped me, right in my tracks, because I realized something. The problem wasn't out there. The problem was in here. My thinking, my habits, my excuses. And maybe that's where you are right now. And let me tell you, he was right. You see, most people spend their lives searching for answers outside of themselves. They think success is hiding in a book they haven't read yet, or a course they haven't bought, or a job they haven't landed. But I'm here to tell you something different. Success isn't out there. It's in here, inside you. And it starts with mastering just 2 skills, not 5, just 2. 2 simple, powerful skills that will transform everything. Your habits, your finances, your mindset, your future. Now, these aren't skills you're born with. You don't get them from luck. You earn them. You build them, one day at a time. And when you dog, life bends in your favor. Doors open. Opportunities come. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I was told, and that idea changed my life. Today, we begin the journey of transformation. Part by part, word by word. Let's go deep. Let's go slow. Let's do it. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That's where it starts. Not with your paycheck, not with your title, not with your degree. It starts with you. When I was 25, I was broke. I was behind on my promises. I had pennies in my pocket and nothing in the bank. I was embarrassed. I blamed the government. I blamed taxes. I blamed prices. I blamed my company. Until one day, a man named Earl Schaff looked me in the eyes and said something that changed my life. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That was it. That was the moment. That was when I began the process called personal development. And friend, let me tell you something. Everything changed. See, the greatest project you'll ever work on is not your business. It's not your career. It's not your image. It's you, your habits, your philosophy, your attitude. Because here's the truth. Success is something you attract by the person you become. You don't chase success. You attract it by becoming worthy of it. And how do you do that? One small discipline at a time. You start reading. You start thinking. You start journaling. You start asking better questions. You start showing up for yourself. That's personal development. Let me ask you, how many hours last week did you spend improving you? Not watching, not scrolling, not reacting. I'm talking about building, strengthening, sharpening. Because if you improve, everything improves. Your income rarely exceeds your level of personal development. That's why some people earn more. They've become more. They've developed greater skills, more self-discipline, more emotional control. They've done the hard work, the inner work. Now, it's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks. But day by day, you start feeling different. You walk taller. You speak clearer. You think sharper. People start to notice. They say, something's different about you. And it is. You've begun the transformation. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a tree. If you want the fruit to grow, you don't tape apples to the branches. You don't paint the leaves. You work on the roots, the soil, the foundation. That's personal development. The fruit of your life, your results, your finances, your relationships, they are the visible part. But the root system, that's who you are. And if you nourish the roots, the fruit will come. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. It's not complicated. It's not mysterious. It's the little things. Waking up earlier, reading 10 pages a day, thinking before you speak, taking responsibility. That's the foundation. That's what I learned. And that's what changed my life. Now I want to tell you something you may not hear every day. You can change. You can reinvent yourself. You can upgrade your mindset. You can raise your standards. You can be the kind of person that success is looking for. But it starts here, not next year, not next month. Now, don't wait for the world to hand you a better life. Build yourself and the life will come. Remember, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. So start today. Take a notebook. Take 5 minutes. Ask yourself, what's one thing I can improve in me this week? Then go do it. Not perfectly, just consistently. Because when you work on you, you become the magnet for the life you want. And that is the power of personal development. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. When I first heard that, I paused, because I had never thought of it that way. I was taught, go to school, get good grades, and someday you'll make it. And that's good advice. But it's incomplete. Here's what I found: school teaches you how to survive. Self-education teaches you how to succeed. Now, don't get me wrong. Education is important, but there's more to life than textbooks and degrees. The real world demands more. It demands insight, creativity, discipline, vision. And those things don't always come from a classroom. They come from you, from your hunger to grow, from your willingness to learn long after graduation, from your decision to become a student of life. If you want to be wealthy and wise, you must turn yourself into a lifelong learner. That's the truth. Most people stop learning after school. They close the books. They stop asking questions. They settle. But the top percent, they never stop. They read. They study. They know that if they grow their mind, they grow their life. Let me tell you what changed me. A mentor, a book, a question. That's all it took. I met Earl Schaff when I was 25. He said, Jim, don't just read for school. Read for you. And so I did. I started with Think and Grow Rich. Then I moved to The Richest Man in Babylon, then to biographies, philosophy, psychology, communication. One book led to another. One idea sparked 100 more. And slowly I became someone new. Not because the world changed, but because my mind changed. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. The secret. It's in your daily routine. When you exchange just 30 minutes of entertainment for education, you're changing your future. Let me ask you, how much time did you spend learning on purpose this week? Not accidentally. Not scrolling through random posts. I mean intentional learning. With a book, a podcast, a notebook, a Mentee Edge. That's how you grow. You build a personal development curriculum, not handed to you by someone else, but built by you for you. Pick topics that stretch your thinking. Sales, wealth, history, leadership. Every subject has gold. If you're willing to dig, learning is free or cheap, but the return is priceless. Buy a book for $20 and it gives you a $200,000 idea. That's the magic of self-education. You start learning how to think. You start seeing patterns others miss. You start solving problems instead of creating them. And guess what? People notice. You become the person others go to for clarity, for ideas, for solutions. Why? Because you've invested in your mind. Now, don't think you need to read 100 books this year. That's not the point. It's not about quantity. It's about transformation. Even if you read one powerful book, but apply it fully, that can change your life. Don't just let learning lead to knowledge. Let learning lead to action. Because if all you do is learning and never act, nothing changes. Learn it. Live it. So what do you do from here? You make a list. Books to read. Topics to explore. Questions to ask. You turn off the noise. And you turn on your mind. That's the shift. That's what separates the average from the extraordinary. Not talent. Not luck. It's how you think. And how you feed your thinking. That's why I say, miss a meal, but don't miss your reading. Because ideas are the food of the mind. And the mind, once fed properly, can do the impossible. So start today. Pick up that book, watch that seminar, ask that question. And remember, it's not what happens that determines your future. It's what you do with what happens and what you learn from it. That's the beginning of wisdom. That's the beginning of wealth. That's the beginning of a transformed life. If you just communicate, you can get by. But if you communicate skillfully, you can work miracles. Now, that's not just a quote. It's a philosophy. If personal development is the inner work, then communication is the outer expression. It's the bridge between you are and what you can do. It's how you influence the world. It's how you move people. It's how you build everything: relationships, teams, businesses, legacies. And let me tell you this, mastering communication is one of the most profitable skills you'll ever develop. Because here's the truth. You can have the best ideas, the purest intentions, the most brilliant solutions, but if you can't communicate them, they stay locked inside. Ideas die in silence, but they live, they breathe when you give them a voice. Nothing happens until you speak. I learned that early in my journey. I wasn't always a speaker. I wasn't always confident. I wasn't always clear. But I knew that if I wanted to lead, if I wanted to sell, if I wanted to teach, I had to learn how to express. And friends, so do you. Because communication isn't just what you say. It's how you say it. It's tone, rhythm, it's timing. It's the pause. It's the look in your eye when you speak with conviction. It's the ability to say more with less. Brevity is powerful. Clarity is strength. You don't need more words. You need better words. And the better you get at expressing ideas, the more doors open. The more people listen. The more you move the needle in life. Now, some people say, well, I'm just not a speaker. Let me correct that. Everyone is a speaker. You just haven't practiced. You speak every day, in meetings, at dinner, with your children, with your team. The only question is, are you intentional about it? Are you growing that muscle? Because just like any skill that's learned, you learn by watching great communicators. You learn by studying the art. You learn by doing it again and again. That's how I started. I gave a speech for the first time and I was nervous, but I did it anyway. Then I did another and another. I read books on public speaking. I listened to the cadence of great leaders. I practiced in front of a mirror, and over time I grew into it. You can too. You don't have to become a professional speaker, but you do have to become effective. Effective in expressing your thoughts. Effective in persuading others. Effective in leading. Because communication is leadership. Let me give you a picture. You're in a room with 10 people. Only one stands up and speaks with conviction, clarity, and calmness. That's the person everyone listens to. Why? Because words create influence, and influence creates movement. And that's what communication is. Movement. You take a thought from your mind and move it into someone else's heart. That's magic. Now, how do you start developing this? Here are a few steps. 1. Start reading aloud. It sharpens your tone. It trains your tongue. It builds rhythm. 2. Watch great speakers, not for content, but for delivery. Study their pause, their posture, their precision. 3. Practice speaking what you write. Ideas become stronger when you vocalize them. 4. Record yourself. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but growth lives in discomfort. 5. Join a group. Toastmasters, a speaking club, even a discussion group. Practice in safe environments. Repetition is your best teacher. And here's something else. Be present. When you speak, don't just talk. Connect. Look someone in the eye. Feel the moment. Speak to one even in a room of 100. Because the goal is not to impress. The goal is to impact. And you can't impact if you don't feel it first. Let your words come from belief. Let them carry truth. Let them carry intention. Because the world doesn't need louder voices. It needs more authentic ones. So work on this. Not just once, but over a lifetime. Communication is not something you do. It's something you become. And when you become a great communicator, you open doors that talent alone could never open. So remember, master the inner game with personal development. Then master the outer game with communication. Because when you can grow yourself and express yourself, you become unstoppable. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Now that's one of my favorite lines, because it's true every single time. You seek, you don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to work for. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't ask for applause. It just shows up. Every day, early in the morning, late at night, when you're tired, when you're not motivated, when no one is watching. Discipline is the builder. It's the slow hand that lays one brick at a time. And before you know it, you've built a masterpiece. But the process, it's simple yet never easy. Let me say that again. Simple, not easy. You want a better body. Discipline. You want a stronger mind. Discipline. You want financial freedom. Discipline. You want a good marriage, good kids, good results. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Without discipline, there's no enterprise. Without discipline, there's no excellence. Without discipline, there's no future. Let me tell you what discipline really is. It's keeping your word to yourself. Most people are good at keeping promises to others. But how about the promises you make in private? You say you'll wake up early, but hit snooze. You say you'll read 10 pages, but scroll instead. You say you'll save that money, but spend it on a whim. Each time you break your own word, you lose just a little more trust in yourself. But each time you keep it, you build strength, you build belief, you build power. That's the real payoff of discipline. It's not just about productivity. It's about identity. It's about becoming the person who does what they say they'll do. And trust me, when you become that person, everything changes. Now, people ask me, Jim, how do I become more disciplined? Here's my answer. Start small. Start now. And never stop. Discipline isn't about making massive changes overnight. It's about making one good decision and repeating it. Let me give you an example. Start with one daily habit. Wake up at the same time. Go for a walk. Read 10 pages. Write in a journal. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you do it every day. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity fuels your destiny. Now listen, some days will be hard. You'll feel like skipping it. You'll feel tired. You'll feel frustrated. But remember this, discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. The cost of discipline is small. It's manageable. It's light. But the cost of regret, that's heavy. Miss too many days, skip too many moments, and one day you wake up wondering, how did I end up here? Discipline prevents that. It protects your future. And you know the best part? The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. It becomes who you are. You stop needing motivation. You stop relying on mood. You just do the work, and soon, the results begin to show. People will ask you, how did you do it? And you'll smile, because you'll know the truth. It wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was doing the right thing at the right time over and over again. It was discipline. So I want you to make a decision today. What one thing will you commit to? What small promise will you keep? Because when you master the small, you prepare yourself for the big. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. So practice. Be faithful in little. Be consistent in the quiet. And one day, you'll look around and realize that you built the life you deserve, brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. That's the silent power. That's the secret. That's discipline. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. We've talked about growth. We've talked about discipline. We've talked about learning and leading from the inside out. Now, let's talk about the result. Let's talk about the transformation. Because if you do this right, if you master just 2 skills, you change your whole life. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That's what I said years ago. And it's still true today. You see, everything you've ever wanted, it lives on the other side of the skills you build. When you become a person of deep inner strength, someone who takes personal growth seriously, someone who invests in their mind, someone who communicates with purpose and disciplines themselves daily, you become unstoppable. Not just in your career, not just in your bank account, but in your confidence, your peace, your presence. Let me tell you what it feels like to live in mastery. You wake up with clarity. You're not wondering, what do I do today? Plan. You've got priorities. You've got purpose. And because you've been doing the work, you trust yourself. You say something, and you mean it. You set a goal, and you hit it. You look people in the eye, because you've built something real inside of you. You become a leader, not by title, not by status, but by the quiet example you set. People start to notice. They listen differently. They follow you. And it all started because you chose to work on yourself, not the economy, not the weather, not the government, yourself. That's the transformation. If you want things to change, you have to change. You changed. So your results changed. Here's what happens next. You start helping others do the same. You start telling the story. You start sharing what you've learned. You become the example someone else needed to see. You become a mentor, a guide, a light in the dark, not because you were born special, but because you did the work. That's why I say, success is predictable. It's not some lottery ticket. It's not reserved for the lucky few. It's for the disciplined few, the determined few, the ones who take full responsibility, who master the basics, who grow every day. Let me remind you of the two skills we've been building. 1, the inner skill of personal growth. 2, the outer skill of communication. When you grow the inner and express it through the outer, you become a force. You walk into a room and people feel it. Not ego, not noise, but presence. Calm, clear, focused. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because if you work hard on your job, you can make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Not just money, a fortune in relationships, in opportunities, in legacy. And that's what I want for you. Not just goals, not just routines, but transformation, becoming the person who attracts success, not chases it. So here's the final challenging every day. Ask yourself one question. What am I becoming? Not what are you doing? Not what are you earning? But what are you becoming? Because that is the real measure of success. So today I challenge you, master these two skills. Commit to growth. Commit to communication. Commit to discipline. And don't stop. Because the life you dream of, it's not out there in the world. It's inside you, waiting to be built, waiting to be earned. So go build it. This is your time. This is your season. And the transformation begins with you.